The first time someone watches Donnie Darko, they are completely in the dark. And maybe that's you. Donnie seems to be your average, angry, horny teenager who happens to be struggling with schizophrenia. What if I told you that interpretation, while understandable, is wrong? That Donnie Darko has more in common with Doctor Strange than he does his own universe? Or should I say, tangent universe? If you've seen the directorial cut of Donnie Darko, you're familiar with the term tangent universe. Let me stop here for a second, in case you've only seen the theatrical version, which caps off at 1 hour and 48 minutes, meaning you've missed 20 minutes of extra world building that's included in the directorial cut. This isn't an issue, and the theatrical cut is considered to be the better version of the film, but since this is an analysis, I'm going to use the extra details because they help us Donnie Darko fanatics truly understand this crazy movie. And after watching my explanation and you achieve enlightenment, much like Darko himself does, you should go and watch the directorial cut. You'll appreciate it more after understanding the world. Obviously, if you haven't seen the film, this video isn't for you. I'm going to try to explain this chronologically with the film, but first we need to understand some ground rules. We need to understand the tangent universe, which is explained in the movie in the book Donnie received from his science teacher, The Philosophy of Time Travel, the one written by Roberta Sparrow, aka Grandma Death. After 1 hour into the movie, Donnie reads in Chapter 1, if a tangent universe occurs, it will be highly unstable, sustaining itself for no longer than several weeks. Eventually, it will collapse upon itself, forming a black hole within the primary universe capable of destroying all existence. In the beginning of the movie, Frank, the giant rabbit, saves Donnie's life and tells him,
28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes.
28 days until the world ends. What does this mean? Well, this means Donnie is living in a tangent universe, and that if he doesn't accomplish his goal, the primary universe, the world which we live in, will be destroyed. To understand this further, we need to understand chapters 4 and 6. Chapter 4. Artifacts provide the first sign that a tangent universe has occurred. So basically, this random jet engine that falls through Donnie's roof is the artifact. No one knows where it came from because it came from the primary universe.
They don't know where it came from.
And since Donnie was the closest one to this artifact, he is now the living receiver, which is described in Chapter 6. The living receiver is often blessed with fourth-dimensional powers. These include increased strength, telekinesis, mind control, and the ability to conjure fire and water. To summarize, the film takes place in a parallel universe called the Tangent Universe, where Donnie Darko has 28 days to accomplish his goal using superpowers before our world, the primary universe, comes to an end. The next question is, what is Donnie's goal? I'd tell you, but I don't want your mind to explode yet. And like Donnie, we must first go through a series of trials before we understand his mission. So at this point early in the film, all Donnie knows is that the world is going to end. Congrats, you know more than him at this point. Donnie returns home to find the jet engine, the artifact, in his bedroom. And the Federal Aviation agents ask his family to sign some papers. I'm only bringing this up so you'll remember this goofball later on. Then Donnie arrives at school, and the 80s theme is turned up to an incredible notch. If I didn't know any better, I'd have thought this was a John Hughes film. We get a glimpse of all the important characters, most notably Gretchen, Donnie's future girlfriend. Her determined look isn't just sass, it's actually intentional. Now, I'm going to blow your mind real quick, so strap in. As we know, Gretchen dies in the end of the film. This makes her a manipulated dead. The philosophy of time travel describes the manipulated dead in Chapter 10. If a person dies within the tangent universe, they are able to contact the living receiver through the fourth-dimensional construct. Let me summarize. Gretchen dies, so she becomes a manipulated dead, and through the fourth-dimensional construct, aka the frigging time portal, she is able to go back to the beginning of the tangent universe to to help Donnie accomplish his goal, thus saving the world. And you guessed it, Frank is also a manipulated dead. As we see in the end of the film, Frank, who's just a normal dude, gets killed by Donnie. Frank and Gretchen, the manipulated dead, have hatched a plan, aka an insurance trap. As Chapter 9 reads, the manipulated dead will set an insurance trap. The living receiver must ensure the fate of all mankind. Their goal is to help Donnie by guiding him to accomplish his goal, since he is the living receiver. Now we're getting somewhere. Frank visits Donnie again and this time instructs him to flood the school. He does this so that Gretchen will be able to spend time with Donnie. They become boyfriend and girlfriend.
Donnie Darko. What the hell kind of name is that? It's like some sort of superhero or something.
What makes you think I'm not?
Frank visits Donnie a third time, and at this point, he teaches Donnie his telekinesis powers.
How can you do that?
They don't show it, but I also believe this is when Frank describes what Donnie's mission is. I believe this because the next day, Donnie asks his science teacher about time travel, and he receives the book that I've been referring to. He also learns that writer Roberta Sparrow is actually Grandma Death. Now that Donnie has the book, I think it's time to talk about his mission, because he definitely discovers it in Chapter 10. If the insurance trap is successful, the living receiver is left with no choice but to use his fourth dimensional power to send the artifact back in time into the primary universe before the black hole collapses upon itself. To break it down, the manipulated dead have hatched a plan in order to make sure Donnie, the living receiver, sends the jet engine back through the friggin' time portal back to the primary universe so that the real world doesn't collapse into oblivion and end. So you may be asking yourself, why doesn't Donnie just follow the friggin' instructions and send the engine back? Well, after he's learned his mission, he meets with his psychiatrist. They talk about his dog crawling under the house to die and about his internal debate on the search for God. We learn Donnie's fear, dying alone. Donnie's aware that if he sends the engine back to the primary universe, it will crush him in his sleep, since Frank wouldn't be there to save him in the primary universe. Since Donnie feels alone, dying is his biggest fear. While before this point, the movie follows the basic principles of physics and the rules of parallel universes as described by philosopher Hugh Everett, the film now takes a turn for the spiritual. Donnie's story now resembles that of the Messiah, sacrificing himself for the sake of the world. Except Donnie is scared, much like that of Christ in Scorsese's controversial masterpiece, The Last Temptation of Christ, where Jesus decides to get off the cross. It's not a coincidence that they show this movie playing at the theater in Donnie Darko. The manipulated dead are aware of Donnie's fear, and their goal has been to correct this. They know that in order for Donnie to choose to save the world, he has to no longer fear death. Other people have also tried to help Donnie with this fear, but I'll get to that later, because otherwise your mind would melt with confusion. The next scene is the mind-boggling moment where Donnie sees the transparent orbs coming out of everyone's chest. These world lines are based on actual physics. They represent the predetermined path that we are meant to follow. Donnie, who has fourth dimensional powers, can now see these paths. Without revealing much, Donnie discusses this with his science teacher, who informs him being able to see these paths would be contradictory.
If we were able to see our destinies manifest themselves visually, then we would be given a choice to betray our chosen destinies.
Not if you travel within God's channel.
God's channel. Donnie is realizing that his abilities, which defy physics, give him access to this God's channel. Around this time, we're seeing a lot of Patrick Swayze, and his character Jim's importance will come later. All you need to know now is that Frank pushing Donnie to burn his house down was so that Donnie would see himself as a hero. It's uncovered that Jim was a pedophile, and Donnie feels like he did the right thing. The manipulated dead, Frank and Gretchen's plan, is going smoothly. The next pivotal moment occurs during a hypnotherapy session, and things get a lot more confusing. The psychiatrist is able to bring out Frank, and the three of them have a sort of discussion.
It would only be you and him and no one else.
Pretty strange therapy, in my opinion. It's almost like she's in on it. She even tells him to stop taking his medication and that they're placebos, which contradicts what she told Donnie's parents earlier.
And increase his medication.
She's not a manipulated dead, but she's definitely involved with Donnie's mission. So what is she? Chapter 7. The manipulated living are often the close friends and neighbors of the living receiver. They are prone to irrational, bizarre, and often violent behavior. This is the unfortunate result of their task, which is to assist the living receiver in returning the artifact to the primary universe. The manipulated living will do anything to save themselves from oblivion. To summarize this, everyone we've been following in the film, the teachers, Jim, the parents, Donnie's classmates, are all subconsciously aware of Donnie's mission. The reason Drew Barrymore's character was fired is the same reason the science teacher said he'd get fired if he kept talking to Donnie.
I'm not going to be able to continue this conversation.
Because there's a divide in how the school wants to direct Donnie to his goal. The bitchy gym teacher was directly speaking to Donnie when she gave her lesson about fear and love. The very inner conflict that Donnie is debating. Jim's character comes to aid this development.
Are completely paralyzed by their fears. They surrender their bodies to the temptation and destruction.
While the English and science teachers seem to be siding with the manipulated dead.
The temptation and destruction.
Sit next to the boy you think is the cutest. Maybe you and Frank can read this one together.
The psychiatrist is also team manipulated dead, as she's pushing Donnie to listen to Frank. Her discussion of God with Donnie was to verify that he's still looking for God, aka the God channel, which is how he's going to transport the jet engine back to the primary universe. God and time travel in this film are very much the same thing. The next night, Donnie and his sister throw a house party. Donnie uses this as a distraction to spend time with Gretchen, the only person he feels held by. They make love, and it's clear how close they've become. Gretchen's mission is nearly complete. Donnie notices a note left by someone at the party. Frank went for beer. This note reminds Donnie of his time schedule and that he only has a few hours left until the end of the world. Him and Gretchen rush to Grandma Death's house, but we know Donnie already has his answers, so we can assume he wants to ask her if there's any way he can accomplish his task without dying in the primary universe. We can also assume with Donnie that Grandma Death was also once a living receiver, and she somehow survived, enabling her to write the book, The Philosophy of Time Travel. When they arrive, Donnie notices a cellar door, and he thinks back to what Karen said.
Phrases in the English language of all the endless combinations of words in all of history that cellar door is the most beautiful.
He knows he's in the right place, but then they get attacked by violent, manipulated living, and Gretchen gets accidentally run over by Frank, thanks to Grandma Death, who was standing in just the right place. So yeah, Grandma Death is also in on it with the manipulated dead. This is the moment Frank and Gretchen have been building towards. Donnie, witnessing her death, is the pivotal moment that convinces him to save the world. The film ends with Donnie taking Gretchen's dead body to the top of a mountain, where he laughs because he's been enlightened. He now feels love and beauty in the world. He prepares to use his telekinesis to tear a jet engine off the right plane, which his mom and sister just happen to be on, sending the jet engine through the time portal, which he successfully creates through the God channel. And then he stares at Gretchen, the girl he fell in love with, the girl who helped him see the beauty in life, so that he could accept dying alone, without fear. We wake up in the primary universe. Donnie wakes up laughing as if out of a strange dream, maybe unaware of the oncoming doom. And then the movie ends. Donnie Darko is the greatest coming-of-age superhero origin story of all time. One where the villain and hero are one and the same, just a punk kid who doesn't feel love. Where the conflict that determined the fate of the world lies in one kid's decision. He doesn't resemble a hero, but becomes one using his powers and ultimately makes the right choice. He chooses love over fear, but without the help of that bitchy gym teacher. There's even black coat government agents like all other superhero movies. Don't believe me? Remember that goofy guy from the beginning? Yeah, well, he was monitoring Donnie throughout the whole film. He shows up 2 other times. Here and here. Why? Well, I'll let you come to your own conclusion on that one. The point is that this film is packed full of detail and is a treat to rewatch over and over. I learn something new every time I watch it. I know I'm not the first person to do an analysis, but I guarantee my interpretation and all the other ones on YouTube have differences, because there's so much different perspective to have on this film. I recommend checking out Wisecrack's video on Donnie Darko. They talk a lot more in depth about the actual physics behind writer Richard Kelly's script. What's clear to me is that Kelly made a movie open to interpretation, and that has many elements that are at first confusing, but over time create one of the most intricate and emotional experiences. I can honestly say this film keeps getting better. I also want to shout out my Patreon community for voting on this film and for generally just supporting me. I love you guys. Thank you so much. If you're watching this and you're not a member of Patreon, I highly recommend going to check it out. For just $5 a month, you can join the community and vote on movies that get featured in a video every month. Or for $20 to $30 a month, you can receive a DVD or Blu-ray copy of the movie we discuss so you can watch it in good quality before the analysis. Obviously, you also get shout out in every one of my videos, and you will also receive ad-free versions of the videos on YouTube sent directly to you. Pretty awesome. Thanks for checking it out. Love you guys. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching, guys. Consider subscribing. Please like the video and share. I'll see you next time.